Once upon a time, in a busy city, there was an old library. Inside the library stood a large, grand window made of thick, dark wood and beautiful stained glass. For many years, this window had a problem. Its wooden frame had warped with age. Because of this, the window could never close all the way. No matter how hard anyone tried, there was always a 2-inch gap at the very bottom. The other parts of the library were completely perfect. The heavy oak doors closed with a firm, satisfying click. The modern bookshelves were perfectly straight. The roof never leaked a single drop of rain. Every night, after the librarian locked up and left, the heavy oak doors would look at the window and whisper in the dark. They would say, "Look at you! You are a failure. You let the cold wind inside. You let the street noise ruin the quiet of this beautiful room. You are broken, and one day the librarian will replace you with modern glass." The old window stayed silent. It felt deeply ashamed. When the cold winter came, it strained and groaned, trying its best to swell and close that gap. But it couldn't. It could only shake in the wind, feeling completely useless. It thought to itself, "I am supposed to protect this room, but I am failing every single day." One freezing winter evening, a terrible storm hit the city. The wind howled through the streets, and heavy snow began to fall. Inside, the library was dark and empty. The oak doors locked themselves tight, feeling very proud of their strength and how well they kept the storm out. The old window felt worse than ever. Through its 2-inch gap, the freezing air rushed into the room. It braced itself, waiting for the room to freeze, feeling like it had ruined everything. But then, something happened. A tiny, shivering sparrow flew up to the window. It was freezing to death in the storm, its wings tired from fighting the wind. Seeing the tiny gap, the little bird squeezed itself inside and landed safely on a nearby shelf, panting but alive. A few minutes later, another bird followed. Then, a small, stray kitten from the alleyway managed to climb up the ivy on the wall. It pushed its tiny, cold body right through the gap, finding safety and warmth inside the dark library. By midnight, a dozen small, helpless creatures were sleeping safely inside, protected from the deadly storm outside. The window held back the worst of the wind, but kept the gap open just enough for them to breathe and stay safe. The next morning, the storm passed. The old librarian walked into the room. He didn't look angry about the cold air. Instead, he walked straight over to the warped window. He looked at the little birds chirping happily on the bookshelf and the kittens sleeping peacefully in the corner. The librarian smiled warmly. He reached into his pocket, scattered some breadcrumbs near the window for the birds, and then gently patted the old wooden frame of the window. "Thank you, old friend," the librarian whispered softly. The grand oak doors watched in silence, completely confused. Finally, the doors creaked. "But sir, that window is broken. It lets the cold air in. It doesn't do its job." The librarian turned and smiled at the doors. "An empty room is easy to keep warm," the librarian said gently. "But this window does something much better. It keeps the helpless alive. I have known about this gap for years. I never fixed it because I knew that a little bit of openness can save a life. What you see as a broken lock is actually an open door for those who have nowhere else to go." For the first time in its long life, the old window stopped shaking with shame. It looked at the warm morning sun shining through its stained glass and felt a deep sense of pride. It finally understood that its flaw was actually its greatest gift.